morning, frogs. This morning, I wanted to bring you the most recent information that I have from the brothers, the Menendez Brothers case. Obviously, it's a little bit more of the same that I already shared with you guys, but this one is the point of view and the way that an actually former prosecutor sees a possibility of their being released. So here it goes. This is from CNN. All right. Thank you for watching.
A pair of the most famous murder convictions from the 1990s is getting a new look. LA prosecutors announced they're reviewing new evidence in the case of the Menendez brothers. Eric and Lyle Menendez were convicted of killing their parents more than 30 years ago. And not coincidentally, maybe at all, the Netflix show about the Menendez brothers is a smash hit, #1 for 2 weeks running. Joining us now, CNN legal analyst, former federal prosecutor, and, Menendez trial addict, I understand, in the 1990s, Jennifer Rodgers. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
So what does this mean that they're reviewing new evidence in the case?
Well, it could mean one of two things. It could mean that they're reviewing the conviction itself. A lot of offices now, DA's offices, have conviction review units where they look back at whether there was prosecutorial or police misconduct or something else that calls into doubt the verdict. But it sounds more, from what the DA was saying, like they're doing a resentencing review, which means that even if they know the conviction is valid, the defendants actually did it, all these years later, with defendants who are older, have served a lot of time, they're going to say, do they still need to be in prison? Have they served their debt to society? Or can we ask the judge to take another look and maybe shorten their sentence?
So walked down, or actually there was a hung jury in the first trial, then a new trial with both of them being tried together, and they were found guilty. Their defense was that it was self-defense because of years of sexual abuse, they say, at the hands of their father, and that the mother knew and never did anything about it. This letter that one of the brothers wrote about the abuse, what impact could that have?
Well, if that had come in at the trial, in other words, they're saying we were abused, that's why we did it, they didn't really have any support for that at the time outside of their own testimony. If that had come out at the time and they could have said, look, we wrote this letter to this other person saying we were being abused, it may have given that more credence, right? The jury may have felt that there was an excuse for what they did and possibly have acquitted them. And they're not really looking to overturn the verdict, but instead to say, had all of that evidence been available, perhaps the judge would have sentenced differently, right? Had the judge thought that they were abused, and that was a big part of that. That's another thing also, John, that we've learned since that time, 30-some years ago. Abused people don't always behave after something like this the way that you think that they should. We've learned a lot about how sexual abuse survivors act in the aftermath of a crime like this. And so, people think differently about these things now. And that's something that the DA's office will consider when it says to the judge that he or she should or shouldn't take a look at this again.
So the fact that a big chunk of the country that made dominated by this, it really is a smash hit on Netflix. What role does something like that play in shining a new light on a case?
We certainly can bring attention to it. The DA's office looks routinely at cases as part of this resentencing unit. They also can take letters and so on from the people who are in prison and also other people. So it can draw attention to it. It shouldn't have any impact as far as, a certain set of people in the country want to see them resentenced or not. I don't think they'll consider that per se, but it certainly can shine a light on people who've been sitting in prison for all these years and might want another look at their
sentences. Do you think they have a chance? Do you think they have a chance to have their situation changed?
I think that they do. Again, it's the judge who does the resentencing. So what the DA's office is considering is, should we give them a shot at this? Should we make this motion? And then ultimately the judge will say, look, here are the facts as they were then. They even look at things as their disciplinary records in prison, right? How have they behaved through all these years? Do they deserve now, in middle age and getting into their older years, another chance to be out in society? And the judge will decide that ultimately.